Welcome to the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. Thanks for joining. We are here, Joe Cook, RT Young, talking about all the different news and notes that happened this past weekend with the Longhorns. Also looking forward to see what portal needs remain for Texas. We'll also talk a little bit about Jonah Williams joining the two-sport star conversation. And then our Schadenfreude of the week is Carolina Blue. Sorry, Bill Belichick. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of great stuff coming this week with the draft, with Fan Fest, with everything involved. And of course, make sure that you head to InsideTexas.com. 4 months for just $1. That'll get you pretty much up to the Ohio State game. By that point, you're going to want to stick around and follow along as Texas puts itself in the national championship hunt in the 2025 season. Also, make sure that you stay tuned to the channel. We'll have details very, very soon on the Inside Texas Tailgate giveaway presented by Academy this Friday at the Texas A&M game. Friday, we will have a tailgate. Location details will be forthcoming, but it should be right around the ballpark. So if you're parking over by LBJ, you don't have to make a big detour. Most likely, you can just make your way to the ballpark, and Inside Texas will be there for the renewal of the baseball rivalry as a conference series. But RT, we're going to talk football first. Texas had a big Friday when it comes to the transfer portal. Mason Shipley, Jack Injuries, Levon Johnson addressing some big needs with some big people. But there are still some needs that remain. They have a couple roster spots available. Probably likely to see other guys jump in the portal as spring comes to its conclusion. So what still needs to be hit for Texas from college football free agency?
Well, Joe, obviously, I think their biggest needs were addressed with tight end and kicker on Friday. You had to go into 2025 with the kicking game being shored up and it not being a liability with them, looking to be in the national championship conversation. Obviously, it almost cost them a playoff game last year in an early exit that would have left a bitter taste in Longhorn fans' mouths all off season. So that was huge. Getting a tight end in Jack Injuries, who's a really good playmaker, really good as far as tight ends go when it comes to yards after the catch, was super exciting. And obviously, Levon Johnson, that was just a depth piece because we know how much Pete Kwiatkowski likes to rotate on his defensive line. But I would still like to see, a outside threat at wide receiver who's done it before. We've heard obviously glowing things about Parker Livingstone. We're all really excited about Khalil Lockett and Jamie French. Dalen McCutcheon a little bit more on the inside. Obviously, the transfer portal addition of Emmett Mosley the fifth was big, but you still want to see a home run threat get added. Somebody what we thought Isaiah Bond was going to be last year and what he was at times, but couldn't do it consistently. I don't know if that person is going to exist. Somebody on our board posted a really interesting comment last night about just the difference in the 2024 transfer portal as a whole compared to this year. And I think what we're seeing is rosters all around the country are getting much better at roster retention, which may be bad for Texas, but overall good for the health of college football and the health of programs if you're not seeing guys like Matthew Golden and Trey Moore hit the portal with, potentially one season left in their college careers.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be a shift towards aggression when it comes to the winter portal because now the spring may not be as bountiful as it once was. But I think I'm with you there on wide receiver. You'd like to see somebody else in there. I know they're going to say, well, we need more numbers, and that may be true, but they also need to find someone who they can trust on the field. You got to feel good, as you mentioned, about Wingo, Moore. I think you can throw Injuries in that crew. You want a little bit more than that, even if you do run a lot of 12 personnel. Not Injuries, Mosley, sorry, but even if you do run a lot of 12 personnel, you want to have more than 3 wide receivers that you trust on the field. I'm going to go ahead and say they need another tight end. I think that if you're looking for someone who can come in and play right away, I think that's what you need. Jordan Washington, you believe, is ready, even if he's got his shoulder issue. Injuries is going to be ready. After that, what do you have? Spencer Shannon, who has barely played. You have Will Randall, who has not played. And then you have Nick Townsend, who isn't even with the program right now. There are high hopes for him, but I think there still needs to be an addition, and it doesn't have to be some superstar. I think that there's a room, a space on this roster for a bludgeon, I guess to say. Maybe that's some undersized O lineman from another school that may have been playing on O line for his team, but maybe fits a little bit better as a tight end in Texas scheme. Maybe that's a little bit too creative, and you'd like to maybe just find that 6'5", 255-pound guy to do the job for you. But I really think that there's room for another tight end in this crew.
I do wonder, obviously, with that, it's similar to wide receiver, and obviously, in college football these days, you're not in the business of trying to make everybody feel good, but you do wonder a little bit about if you recruit another tight end, what does that do to the confidence of Jordan Washington, Nick Townsend, Amari Winston, guys that you have, and Spencer Shannon for that matter, even though he plays a different role, more of that Juan Davis role. But bringing in another tight end when you've just brought in Jack Indries, who's going to get the ball a lot from Arch Manning, I wonder if that, you run the risk of hurting some feelings, ruffling some feathers.
Yeah, that's why Steve Sarkisian gets paid $10 million. That's why Brandon Harris gets paid six figures to figure it out. It's tough, but they're paid to win football games, and you gotta make that call at a certain point. Any other positions you see as maybe needing to be addressed, or would you maybe want one more spot to be saved for a best player available? We saw them go after David Bailey from Stanford, ended up signing with Texas Tech. Congratulations to the Double Eagle community. But when you're thinking about best player available, if you got to choose, I guess to say, let's go that direction. What position would you add a best player available at?
Well, I think if a true gem became available at the running back position, I would like to see them go after it. Say, I don't think this person exists, but if they do, if Ashton Genty of last season decides to hit the portal after spring football, by all means, go after him. I don't know if Texas is going to win that battle on the NIL front, but running back, I think, would be my number one my number one position, because I think you've seen now, besides the 2022 season, when Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson were both healthy, for the last 6 years, Texas has gone into a season thinking, oh, look at all this depth at running back, and then has seen injuries slowly wilt away the depth at that position, to where you're doing crazy things towards the end of the season. And I think with a 17-game schedule, if a home run hitter becomes available, I'm using that phrase a lot, but definitely go after them. But at the very least, I would like to see, a depth position, somebody who can come and eat carries added at the running back room, because Cedric Baxter's coming off injury. Christian Clark is obviously coming off a big injury, even though the reports of him in spring football are really solid. But then I think, we saw Trey Wisner maybe get a little bit fatigued last year after the Texas A&M game. We don't want him to have to ride the exercise bike and send up prayers to the Almighty that he can, keep going after one more carry. We want a little bit more of a depth and a stable at running back. Defensive wise, obviously, if a best player available came out at defensive tackle, I don't think that's going to happen, but that would obviously be one you'd have to look at. But I think running back would be my number one. What about you?
Yeah, you have to remember what they got in the winter window. They added at linebacker with Brad Spence. They added all those defensive tackles. They added a punter. They addressed those needs. So the options are starting to grow a little limited. You know what? I think just considering that when you add a fourth defensive tackle, he's fourth. If there's a true best player available that plays defensive tackle, I'd go for it. I think that's just a commodity in modern college football that you can't have too many of. And if you have any questions about the readiness of any of your guys, whether that's someone that you're developing, like, not to say Alex January has, like, extraordinary questions. He's just a second-year player, and he has all the questions associated with that. But maybe if you don't think Melvin Hills is ready this year, but will be ready next year, or maybe if you just think that elevating that position is what this defense needs in order to go to the next level or remain at that high level again, I say go ahead. I don't think you need to add at edge, although I kind of understand why they went and got or went to try to get David Bailey. They're fine at linebacker. The defensive secondary is in great shape depth-wise, and I think it's time to develop those guys. I don't think you need to go offensive line. I think you kind of trust what Kyle Flood has, that he can find, the top 7 to make things work. You feel good about the 5. Maybe if you get to that 7 or 8, you're worried about getting to 8, but you think you can handle the 7. Since we already said wide receivers in need and tight ends in need, I think you just try to stack up at defensive tackle to see if you can just, take over and make the line of scrimmage your playground when you're going in the SEC. So before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor, and that is Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
Well, we talk a lot about football, and we were obviously extremely excited for Texas to sign Jonah Williams. There may have been some hesitation about him playing baseball and stunting his opportunity to develop at the safety position for this upcoming football season, where someone of his stature is probably going to be able to make an impact. But he's already making an impact here at Texas, and that is in left field. With Max Ballou out for much of the season, possibly the whole season, Texas has had to really shuffle a lot of things around when it comes to figuring out the corner outfield spots. And left field has just kind of been a rotating cast of characters. Jaden Duplantier has gotten some opportunities, hasn't gone well for him. But Jonah Williams, limited in at-bats for most of the season, got some opportunities against Auburn, and all he decided to do was go 5 for 7 with three RBIs, score 2 runs, reach base with the walks, and steal a base against a top 10 team in Auburn. And while, hey, this is, just a few games into his Texas career, he's only played in 6 games. It makes you wonder about how bright the future could be for someone like Jonah Williams when, against SEC pitching, he's doing stuff like that and making an impact when Texas needed it most at a very, very big position that had been a hole for most of the past couple weeks.
Yeah, that was extremely exciting. If people threw cold water on him playing 2 sports from a fan perspective, I don't know what you're doing. Stuff like this makes college sports extremely fun when there's an athlete like this. And I think it should only make people who are more inclined to only care about Texas football be more excited after seeing just, wow, this guy is just probably one of those dudes that if you do anything with Jonah Williams, he's going to be really good. If you're playing ping pong, if you're playing video games, if you're playing cornhole, he's going to beat you at all of it. And yeah, he obviously stepped up huge for Jim Schlossnagle and the Texas baseball team this weekend to get that huge sweep over Auburn. Some very timely offense, very timely hits. Like you said, Joe, that outfield position has been a rotating door in the wake of Max Ballou's injury. For whatever reason, Easton Winfield was a big transfer, but just has not been trusted and has also been a little banged up too. So I think Jonah Williams coming in, adding some really big threats on the base running path with stolen bases, which that's something Texas really has not had this year, is huge as well. I thought it was just extremely fun. So I think it's just going to make people extremely excited to watch his number run out on Campbell Williams Field at DKR for the first time.
It's really cool. I wonder why he elected to go 55 in baseball, which is not really a outfield. It's kind of like a relief pitcher number. You don't really see that from someone playing a position very often, and yet he's number 9 in football.
And that's what's crazy is he was really billed his baseball prowess was really being billed as a pitcher. And that's what his, is he going to go pro was really hinging on. Is this guy's a stud pitcher, but obviously had that collarbone injury a couple weeks into his senior year in high school football. But yeah, he hasn't even pitched yet. He won't pitch this season, probably next season at the earliest, if he ever even pitches. But really exciting, and especially the fact that, dude, this guy should be going to prom right now.
Yeah, and just seeing those RBIs, level swing, all that stuff, just some natural talent. That's really cool to see. We know it's early, but I mean, maybe we're talking about another of the top 2 sports stars to ever play for Texas. And when you think of Longhorns who have done 2 sports, which is increasingly difficult, I loathe Kyler Murray, but man, I respect the hell out of him for being a top 8 pick in 2 different sports. It's not easy to do, and it hasn't been easy to do it for a long time, dating back to the 60s, maybe even into the 40s as well. But Texas has some good options to pick from when you're talking about some of the better 2 sport stars to wear burnt orange.
Yeah, and by 2 sports stars, we're not meaning guys who are good on the football field and then also will, beat up some freshmen at Gregory Gym in basketball. We're talking about guys like James Street, who is obviously an amazing baseball player and won a national championship at quarterback. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but also never lost a game as a starter at quarterback, correct? And then, Marquise Goodwin, obviously starring on the track side of things and in football. Who were some other names that you thought of in the conversation?
I don't think we can include Adam Dunn because I don't think he ever played baseball for Texas. I think he just was on a roster for a little bit. But, you mentioned Street. There's Bobby Lane as well. Keith Moreland played 2 sports for Texas. I think he was a defensive back as well as a star player.
I was actually reading about Keith Moreland having to tell Darrell K. Royal last night his conversation that he was quitting football and that he was going all in on baseball. And that really being the thing that Darrell K. Royal had such a weightiness and such a gravitas to him that was such a hard conversation for Keith Moreland to do, that it gave him really the strength that he needed to go excel in his baseball career, because he was like, now I'm in it. I had to tell Darrell K. Royal I'm quitting, so my feet are completely in this door now. So that was an interesting read. So yeah, that's a good shout for sure.
There are a couple others. Got to remember track. That's a little bit of an option here. Marquise Goodwin had a standout NFL career, standout Texas career, standout Texas track career, doing sprints and long jumps. Now I know he's not in the lofty, he doesn't fit among the Texas legends, but hey, John Burt ended up as an All-American in track and contributed to Texas for 6 years in the football program. So credit to him. Our good buddy, Danny Davis from the Statesman, had a couple other ones. Jamal Charles is one to remember. He was a standout on the track. And also when you go to the women's side, Destiny Hooker, All-American in volleyball and national championship in track. So that's a pretty impressive list. And who knows, maybe Jonah will be able to get in that conversation as well. Were there any others? I'm trying to think of anything else. The last guy I know who gave it a reasonable try was Ben Johnson. He was a baseball or a football walk-on and a baseball regular, but I think he finally dropped baseball. I'm getting that all mixed up. Football walk-on, baseball starter, finally dropped football, I think at Augie's behest.
Yeah, Ben Johnson was a stud high school quarterback for the Westwood Warriors, and yours truly, once upon a time, was the Westwood Warriors football chaplain when Ben Johnson was the quarterback. So I got to see him up close and personal, and dude, he could have definitely played quarterback at many college football programs, but obviously playing Texas was his dream. Yeah, and he was a great outfielder for the Longhorns.
Before we keep going, got to show some love to our other sponsor, and that is David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Last but not least, we got Schadenfreude of the week, and it's Carolina Blue this week. We talked a little bit about LaVon Johnson and his decision to commit to Texas, sign with Texas. Well, earlier in the day of that commitment on Friday, reports had leaked out, and this isn't to say anything about our buddy Pete Nakos, who has been all over it for the most part this portal season. But he did report that LaVon Johnson signed, as this graphic shows, with North Carolina. Turns out it wasn't final, wasn't binding, wasn't the last word. And about a few hours later, Texas actually gets the real signature from LaVon Johnson and adds him to the depth chart for the Longhorns in 2025. And, you know, watching Texas and Steve Sarkisian get one over on Bill Belichick, not something that you would ever think to say, but it happened on Friday.
Yeah, Joe, I'm trying to think if I want to take my joke direction more in the Bill Belichick path or in Mac Brown. So which would you rather hear?
I think the Belichick path.
Okay, well, we have Steve Sarkisian. Obviously, he defeated Nick Saban, last regular season loss in Tuscaloosa. Now he's defeated Bill Belichick for all intents and purposes for LaVon Johnson. So I think this is a tally in the Steve Sarkisian GOAT conversation. So obviously the transfer portal is wild. It shows that the Longhorns really needed a defensive tackle. They maybe felt like this was the last best option to add to that rotation. So I commented on our Inside Texas group text the other day. It was a little bit nerve-wracking if they went all out for someone like LaVon Johnson, who's a good player, solid depth piece, but by no means is he 2023 T'Vondre Sweat in full form. So, a little bit nerve-wracking there, but they want more depth, and they were willing to do what it takes to get him.
It's still always going to be so funny to me that Bill Belichick is a college coach.
I don't understand it. I don't understand why he did this. I've made too many girlfriend jokes, so I'm gonna let that hang out on the back burner for a couple weeks before I bring it back. But it's a strange move to me. I don't understand why Bill Belichick is coaching in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Strange to me. Maybe he wants to put on one more tryout for the NFL and wants to get paid, but the process will not include LaVon Johnson. It was a weird one because he visited Texas, I think, on Thursday. Actually, he did. Picture of him in Kenny Baker's office on the phone with T'Vondre Sweat, and then less than 12 hours later committing to North Carolina. Maybe you wonder if he didn't get an offer or something like that. Portal guys don't always post what offers they receive. But apparently that was not the end of things for LaVon Johnson, and Texas now will have him on the roster in Austin instead of in Chapel Hill. So,
and in a way, we finally got one over on Maryland, which feels good after those couple years in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that anymore. We'll talk about some better things over on Inside Texas, where you can get 4 months for just $1. Again, it is April 21st. That'll get you all the way up to August 21st. That's 10 days to the Ohio State game. You're going to want to stick around then. And of course, stay tuned to this channel. Stay tuned to InsideTexas.com. We will have a tailgate for the Friday Texas A&M game around Dish Falk Field. We will have the final location of that tailgate soon. Presented by our friends at Academy, a Blackstone griddle, a Yeti hard cooler, flag canopy, folding chairs, Yeti tumblers, everything that you need to have an awesome tailgate. You can get by showing up at our tailgate giveaway. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Must be present, must be 18, and you can only have one entry. But you're going to want to get there. We'll be out there. We'll be celebrating Texas versus Texas A&M and maybe 3 first-round picks for the Longhorns. So should be a fun.
The Aggies are making their fans believe, Joe. They were maybe going to skip out on a trip to Austin, but I think they're going to be there in full force because they are going to be believing again.
It should be a lot of fun. Get there early, I guess to say, and no pun intended about the A&M head coach. So, RT, thank you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel.